All right, so Ted, we're back again. Hello, everyone. And
Hello, listeners. I
uh,
hope you're all having a wonderful day.
yes, and
Well, I've had a couple of emails from friends, the people that I know, that want to know more about uh, a possible abduction or something more with Maya than I have given, and I want to back up and remind all the listeners that in within this the boundary of these all these aliens in their I call it a confederacy because I think they're all connected. One group seems to kind of know what the other one's probably doing, but I want to remind everybody there are different groups. Now we've talked about the reptilians and the grays that are their servers, uh, and how they operate, and I've given everybody a lot of very negative, frightening information about those. And then we're getting into the biblical area. We have uh, God, who, in my opinion, originally was an alien that came here, but I think the real God, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, came here. This alien group came here in the form of spirit, not solid matter in our dimension, as the reptilians are, and uh, so that's a different group, but yet they interact. One knows what the other one is doing. And I'm just reminding everybody, don't lose touch with that. I know many of you, and I've had people email me saying that they're sick and tired of hearing about religion and Jesus and blah, blah, blah. Uh, well, I'm here to tell you, if you want to learn more about this phenomena, you're going to have to change that attitude, because whether you like it or not, and whether I like it or not, uh, the Holy Family, they are originally aliens. They're not if they weren't interdimensional, they would be living here physically on the planet with us, in the same dimension and reality that we are. So it's almost beyond our comprehension how all this works. And I certainly don't know all the answers. And I don't want anybody now or ever thinking Ted has all the answers, because I certainly do not. I am here just to tell you what I have experienced, and to me, what it means. It doesn't mean that it's 100% accurate. And I've had a number of people correct me on different things, and I appreciate that. I appreciate good constructive criticism, as long as we don't get nasty. But uh, these aliens talking about Maya, now, they are a group that live underground. From best I could tell, and what I experienced, what I saw, they they live in, like, in the mountains, in caves, but it's not like a cave that you would find a bear hibernating for the winter. They have portals that they go into these mountains, and there are huge domiciliaries inside these mountains. Barbara and I, we tried to do hypnosis for me to try to get more information uh, on possible abduction there with Maya and what I would see. We never could actually break through and see anything. Well, that tells me that they really blocked me from seeing that, or it may not have been a bad experience and there wasn't that much to tell. Uh, so I don't have a lot of information there, but I do recall being taken in one of the crafts by one of the small reptilians, and Maya's group were small. They were not big 7 foot dinosaur head shaped reptilians. They were small, and I do recall being taken in one of those and taken, and I could tell through the portal inside the craft where I was sitting, we were approaching a mountain range. And then the next thing I know, zoom, we're inside this huge, monstrous cave. And in there, I remember seeing a number of small crafts, like small UFOs that maybe could carry 2 or 3 humans. I don't recall seeing an enormous ship like motherships that I have seen with the other reptilians. Uh, I did see those. Now, one of the things I remember that really stood out to me, and every time I think of this, I think of this one thing, and inside this cave, I did not see any lighting fixtures like street lights, spotlights, overhead electrical lights hanging down, but yet you could see inside everywhere. It was lit up, not tremendously bright. It was a soft, very pale olive green color everywhere you looked. And it seemed like this color was just there in everything. I couldn't find anything projecting this color. I remembered seeing humans walking around. I remembered seeing these small reptilians that I would say 4 feet, 5 feet at the most. They were not very big at all, and I don't remember at any time I felt threatened or uncomfortable. It was not a bad feeling I had with that experience. Now, what they did to me, how long I was there, I have no idea. I wake up the next day and I wasn't sure if I dreamed that or I remembered it or what, but it has stayed with me all these years. And as I said, Barbara and I tried several times to break through and see more of this, and it just never happened. Now, that's about all I can tell the listeners about Maya. I wish I had more information to share with you. I'd like to know myself, but I just haven't been able to find it to do that. Now, there's another group that there's the reptilians that I believe the big tall reptilians that I've talked about that do consume human flesh for their food. They operate the underground facility at Dulce, New Mexico. These are, in my opinion, the fallen angels that the Bible talks about. Now that's my feeling at this time. Now there is another group that we haven't talked about, but I'm going to introduce you today to that group. And I spoke last time about my experience with a lady who's a psychic in Tulsa, Oklahoma, named Mary Henry. She was a psychic there who did psychic work, and I met her through Barbara Barthlick. And I had an experience that involved Mary that we will go into at a later time, but I want to tell you that when I was abducted with Mary and we were taken to an underground facility, the aliens working in there were swine. They had swine-looking faces, pig faces. They had hooves, and they walked upright. Now, getting back to the good aliens, to me, these are the angels. These good aliens are the angels that the Bible talks about, where they help us. They put spirit guides or guardian angels. That's the same thing, in my opinion. They put them together to watch over us, to see that we accomplish the mission that we agreed to when we were born into this world. So that is a totally different program. It's biblical. I've talked on it before, but so many of you don't want to hear that. I'm not going into depth with it today, but just don't rule it out, please. If you rule that out and shut that part of this phenomena out, then you're hindering yourself from learning the true nature of this whole phenomena and how it works, because it's very complicated.
Just going back to what you're saying about inside the mountain, I don't suppose you know where that location was, do you?
With Maya,
Yeah.
I got the impression that it was in the great northwest part of the United States in some mountain range.
Yeah.
I have, of course, I have no idea where. I could never pinpoint it.
And do you not think it's a bit suspicious that you weren't able to break through? Because that's something they do, isn't it? They kind of steal the memory or replace it with a fake one.
They do that. They do that.
But I remember Carter Turner saying, "Good aliens don't abduct." That was kind of her thing.
Well, they don't. The good aliens, who are our angels, it is their mission not to destroy us, but to help us fulfill our lives and complete our missions that we came into this world to do, which is a learning process for us. A human life is a learning process for us. And they try to help us. It is their responsibility to look out for us. They warn us. I have been to funerals where the deceased, who the body was lying there in a casket at this funeral, and I would look around and I would see the deceased in spirit form, looking in a way that I would recognize them in their human form. And I have seen this many times in the past. And every time that I've seen it, there was always 2, sometimes 3 other humans standing around them that they projected themselves to be human, but yet under hypnosis with Barbara, I saw a number of times they actually were aliens. They actually were, and not reptilians. They were like these tall, very slender grays, and they were accompanying the deceased to see and attend their own funeral. And this happens a lot. I have seen it probably a dozen times in my lifetime. And it's always the same way. Now, the reason that they're accompanied that is because the deceased has just arrived on that side, and they have to reacclimate themselves to a spirit life from where they came from. And they're not going to turn them loose and let them do something to upset everything and hinder their own experience or growth. And that's why they accompany them. Now, the same spirits, and I'll use, for example, a nephew of mine who passed away a few years ago. And at his funeral, I saw him, and he had 2 human, tall, slender, human-looking men as they projected themselves to me with him.
So are you saying
After this, like months later or a year later, my nephew visited me in spirit, and he was alone.
yeah.
He was alone. So it's not like they were there for any reason, but yet to help him because he's so new. He had just died like 2 or 3 days prior
So
to that.
so are you saying that like there was aliens at the funeral but in physical form, but everyone around them thought that they
No,
were
they
just
were
other
not in
humans?
physical form. I was seeing them psychically.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry. Sorry. Yeah, thank you for clarifying that.
I
Yeah.
just I just
No,
thought, Jesus.
no, yeah, no, they were not in physical form where everybody could see them. But now uh I have seen the deceased like that where I wasn't the only psychic there that saw them. Uh, when you when you get with a bunch of spiritualists, like from the spiritualist camp down in Casadega, Florida, where they talk to spirits all the time, that's part of their services. Uh, Oftentimes they see the same spirit.
And just getting back to the mountain, Ted. How large would you say it was in the mountain? I imagine it was like a city inside this mountain.
Okay, yes.
How
Well,
large? How large are we
I
talking?
would say you could easily have put a 10 or 12 story building inside the hangar area where the craft was that took me there.
Yeah. So what,
Yeah.
you think they've just always been there, or did they just colonize this mountain, or
Well,
what's your best thought on that?
I don't know. I don't have enough information to answer that. I wish I did, but I don't know. Maya, they never instructed me on the history of any of that, of how they came about. I just know that there are different groups. I have seen different groups. I have seen also, interestingly enough, especially with you being from Ireland, I have seen little gnomes for in the forest.
Little
And
leprechauns.
yeah, little leprechaun dudes, right? And they live also in burrows in the ground and have, uh, from what I've gathered.
Okay.
Now I
But
have not
hang
been
on, hang on.
taken by the I haven't been taken by them, but I have seen them in the forest.
Hang on. I think we're moving a bit too fast here. All right.
Okay,
I just want to, for the moment, can we just stick with the mountain? Okay.
sure. All right.
You've actually given us loads to talk about, but I just want to stick with the mountain for a start. I recently read Henry Crane's book, Anunnaki, a history of reptilians and humanity. And in the book, he claims that there's reptilians living inside the planet, okay? But then there's also reptilians living in other solar systems. But they all pretty much have the same agenda. And this kind of goes back to Vance, who sent us an email asking about the reptilians and the different groups. I think this kind of answers your email a bit, where the reptilians living in the Earth aren't necessarily good. They're more kind of neutral, and they just study human. This is according to his book anyway. They just study humanity, whereas these Anunnaki reptiles and the Draco reptiles are the ones who are basically farming us for our energy and feeding off our emotions. And he gets this from the Sumerian text, because you've got all these civilizations all around the world, uh, the Mayans, the Aztecs, the Chinese, the Hopi Indians, and they all worship reptiles, these reptile gods. And hopefully that kind of gives a little bit of context. I don't know if it's correct, but I thought it was interesting. You know, when you meet someone like Ted who's talking about these reptilians feeding off energy, and then you're reading books by different authors about uh, possibly giving a history to what's going on, it kind of opens your eyes a little bit, you know.
True.
Um, but just to stick with the mountain. So when you got inside the mountain, there was no. It was it was all green, but there was no visible light source.
No,
No.
no,
And what about population wise? Were you just seeing reptilians all over the place?
no. Uh, we we went in, and the craft I was in, it sit down on like a small square shaped landing pad, and then there were walkways leading away from that. There were different levels that went up. Like I said, you could maybe put a 10 or 12-story building inside there. And I tell you, it kind of reminded me like of a metal. You've seen pictures of the Pueblo Indians in Colorado, southern Colorado, that lived in these banks.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it reminded me there were different levels with, I could see windows, I could see walkways as I looked up. Uh, but I didn't see a lot of beings walking around. Maybe from where I was, maybe I might have seen in different directions 30.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe around 30 different entities, and several of those were human.
Right. And what about temperature wise?
It felt like
Because reptilians love the heat. Well, ours do
well,
anyway.
yeah. Well, I really hadn't thought of that until you just now asked for that. But golly, Pete, I don't remember it being hot nor cold. It seemed to me like it was just kind of a perfect medium. I'm going to say 70, 72 degrees. Felt like something like that. That's Fahrenheit.
Yeah, okay. And so you're inside the mountain. What are these structures made of? Are they carved out of the stone, or is it some other
No,
material?
no, no. They look like they looked like probably they had been metal, but because the gratings, the banisters on the levels where the beings were moving around, it looked like metal fencing along there. It looked somewhat modern. It didn't look like the structures you see where the Pueblo Indians were, as far as being adobe. They looked metal, and they were this green color. Everywhere you looked, everything was radiating this soft olive green color.
Yeah. Okay. And you don't remember seeing Maya during this encounter?
No,
No.
I did not. No.
Mm. Ted, you were talking about Dulce there for a second as well. You said a different group runs Dulce. Is that what you
Well,
said?
no, uh, in Dulce, when I was taken there, I was living in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I was taken out of uh, my home during the night, and I was put into a craft, and we flew directly over into at a low level over Kirkland Air Force Base, and went zooming right over it and into the mountain. And of course, I couldn't see what was coming, and it was night. But all of a sudden, we're inside the mountain, and we're like in a tunnel, and we start moving so fast to these tunnels that it's like uh, warp speed in space, as you've seen some of these movies like in Star Wars where they hit warp speed. You see just a string of lights passing you, and then all of a sudden we're on a platform, and we're at some location, and it only seemed like seconds from the time we went into this mountainside there at Kirkland to we were at this place, which I was told it was located at Dulce by the carrier that was taking me. Now, I was never allowed to see the carrier that took me. I felt their presence. I felt love with them. I felt comfortable with them, and I felt what I would want to say is like my chief guardian angel. you might say. But I was taken so that I could personally witness what's going on in the lower levels of Dulce so that I could tell people. And for years, I've held back because it was just absolutely too awful to tell anyone. And I didn't know how people would react. And also, I was afraid that my life might be put in danger by spilling the beans on what I saw. But I'm going to tell it here today. And for those of you that are have a weak stomach, I suggest you stop listening to it. Or if you can't deal with fright very well, maybe you need to not listen to the rest of this. Okay, I'm trying to think for your best interest. But we get there to Dulce, and we approach an area where small crafts are coming in. There's lots of them. It's like a big hangar. And out of each craft, I could see that they would bring out one, sometimes two. I don't know if there was three or not. It could have been three, maybe, humans. And they put them in uh, like a little buggies that was on like a rail track. Uh, and they set the people up in that. Now, the overseers operating the system, shockingly to me, were human, or they appeared to be human. And what shocked me even more was these tall Nordic, blonde haired, blue eyed men operating this system were wearing uniforms with the swastika on the shoulders, an emblem, an
Yeah.
insignia of the swastika. Now, think about this and think about World War II and what all was going on there, and the association of this might indicate who was controlling Hitler and what was really behind all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Henry Crane's book as well, he did mention that different groups of humans worship different reptilian gods unwittingly, and that sometimes the reptilian gods would fight each other and they would
Yeah.
get the humans to try and wipe out the other group.
Yes.
In this case, I'm drawing comparison. He draws comparison to Hitler and the Jews.
Mm-hmm.
That's where his intense hatred for the Jews came from. It was influenced by these reptilians. Anyway, if you could just carry on.
Well, we drew close to where these humans overseers were working. They could not see us.
Hang on. There's a lot of shouting in the background.
I'm sorry. Uh,
The-
family members watching a ball game. I'm sorry, they got excited.
Sorry, carry on.
Okay.
That was the listeners telling you to go, go, go. Get the information out there.
Well, these overseers could not see me nor the entity that was guiding me and taking me there. We were, to me, ethereal. We were not in solid form where they could see us, but these workers, these Nordic people, were solid material. The humans they brought in, they put in these little train cars. Were all sitting there like zombies, like they were stunned. And one of the things that bothered me in the first time I saw this with Barbara under hypnosis, it really wrecked me emotionally. And I saw a young woman of maybe 28 to 30 years old, a very pretty, attractive brunette lady, and she had a little boy with her about 7 or 8 years old, and he was sitting there with her. Both of them had been brought in, and I panicked, and I knew that something bad was about to happen to them. And I ran to wake them up, and I got right in their face, and I was like yelling to wake up, wake up. And they were not even aware I was there. And the Nordic overseers couldn't have seen or hear me either. So I was protected in that sense. Some way they had me concealed where nothing was aware that we were there. But this woman, they rolled on and went on down the conveyor belt. And so then we moved to a different area, and the person that was taking me, or the entity that was taking me, stopped and said, "Listen." And I stopped, and we listened. And in the background, you could hear kind of like a very dull, ripping kind of noise. And I remember beginning to feel panicky, and I didn't want to go see what was making that awful noise. And the entity that was taking me insisted and said, "You must see it. You must see it." And so I looked, and what I saw were human torsos hanging on big meat hooks, and they hooked bone to hooks in the back of the body, and they were ripping the bones out of the human bodies to fillet it.
And who was doing this?
The Nordics, these
Now,
overseers.
do you remember watching Extraordinary The Seeding? Do you remember
Never
that?
heard of that. No, I never heard of it.
No, we definitely watched this. It was remember we spoke about the guy waking up in his clone. You said it was a pretty good documentary.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
do remember now.
Do you remember what he was saying? That he was walking past one of these Nordics, and he said it was like their face just kind of shifted briefly into reptilian face and then shift back. It was like a hologram that was put over the face.
Right. Okay. Now I remember now. Thank you. Yes.
Is it possible that this might have been an illusion?
It's possible.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with this phenomenon, anything is possible. You know.
Royce, sorry, continue.
It's quite all right. The next phase of Dulce that I saw was we went to a large room that was extremely cold, and inside this room were boxes that were like a little small metal caskets, only they weren't caskets, they were more like coolers. And they were bringing in human body parts, arms, legs, torsos, all kinds of body parts, and packing them into these crates. And then there was a lot of them. It was a big operation. And I saw, I'm going to say probably 6 different Nordics working on 6 different boxes at one time, if I recall correctly. And they were packing all this in, and then they were putting the boxes, once they're full, on a conveyor belt roller. And it reminded me of present day where your luggage comes in at an airport on those rollers. It was like rolling on that, and it rolled into an area where there were a lot of craft waiting, and they were loading them, these crafts, where they were taking them, in my opinion, I assume they were taking them out to colonies in space somewhere, or colonies here on our own planet that we're not aware of.
Wow. It's a meat processing plant. We've touched on it briefly before, but
yes, but I never really went into detail like I just have now. And that's all I saw on that, and I don't ever really want to see anymore.
And what did the good aliens say anything about this at the time?
It was after this that I was told that they wanted me to witness what was really happening so that I would tell people. And I shared all this with Barbara, but unfortunately, Carla left us before I was able to share all this with her uh, because her sickness came about so fast that Barbara and I had not covered a lot of this in our hypnotic regressions.
Yeah. The I remember Carla did briefly touch on it before, where she said that you just reminded me of it when you were saying that people were in a zombie state, and
Yeah,
you were shouting at them that you can't treat our people this way.
right.
Yeah. So these Nordic looking beings are in Nazi uniforms. That's an
Yeah,
interest that's an
yeah.
interesting part as well. Um
And also while it's popped in my head here, uh, I'm not the only case that Barbara had worked with that had seen this. I was one of several that she had worked with over say a 10-year period that had seen very similar. Their accounts were very similar to what I saw, and they also reported the Nazi swastikas.
Ted, do you know any of them?
Any what Nazis?
No, of the other people who've seen this.
No, no, no. Barbara was very private, and she would tell me about some cases, but she never told me enough to identify anyone.
Yeah.
The only person that identifiable was Barbara and I's friend Mary Henry.
Yeah. Someone left a comment on Reddit. It reads, Thomas Castillo in Dulce Base interview talks about the same thing, that reptilians like to eat humans. Plus, I read a blog of a woman who was abducted by reptilians saying same thing, that they like to eat human children and organs.
Yes, the praying mantis eat supposedly Barbara told me that the mantis, those big tall mantis, were considered the child care takers. Uh, like they looked after abducted children. Well, that's not. I didn't see them looking after them. I saw them eating their insides.
Oh, Jesus. This was at Dulce.
No,
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 but
no.
you have seen that somewhere else.
I have seen that in another regression with Barbara.
So,
I didn't see any praying mantis or any other entity other than the Nordics at Dulce.
right. So these mantis beings are going around swapping out human babies with the clone babies and then eating the babies.
That's right, eating their organs.
Oh my God. I've been so interested in aliens for so long, and I think I might have said it before. This is worst case scenario, why they're here.
I'm very sorry to disappoint you.
I
I
always
wish, I
I
wish
always
I had a prettier picture, to tell you, but to get all the pretty stuff, we're gonna have to get into biblical areas because that's where that lies.
yeah. You know,
And,
I
and don't forget, I'm saying it again, don't forget, I would say that's where we want to go. They're alien too, and they look out for us.
yeah. Ted
And
is
they're not hurting us in any way that I'm aware of, that I've witnessed or have seen. Keep that in mind. Those of you that are having negative experiences with reptilians, you know, you need to start focusing more and more and more on Jesus Christ. Remember, that figure really upsets and highly disturbs these reptilian negative beings, and there is a reason it does. So keep that in mind. Don't lose touch of it, listeners.
do you think that this whole idea of free will, like they can't, if you don't want to go along with them, you don't have to. Like they can do whatever they want to you, but you still have free will. Is that true, or is that just uh
Well, from what I've gathered and experienced and seen, we have a lot of free will. Not everything is we're. I'm trying to say we're not robbed of free will on everything in our lives. I, from what I understand, when we are born, we come into this physical world to live out a mission that was designed for us before we were born. And as long as we follow the plan of that mission, it doesn't matter if so like, well, hey, we decide we're going to go on a vacation or a holiday somewhere. So, we may have the free will to decide if we want to go to Alaska or if we want to go to Argentina. As long as where we're going doesn't interfere in our mission, we have all that free will. We have the free will to decide what clothes we're going to wear today, what colors we want, how to decorate our room. We have an enormous amount of free will as long as it doesn't interfere in God's plan or mission for us.
yes. See, I'm just kind of I read somewhere that the aliens they have to respect human free will, and that if you decide that you don't want to go with them, then there's nothing they can do about that. Is that true?
Well, I would say yes to a certain degree for the simple reason that they trick us to abduct us. It's everything that these negative reptilians do. Their whole agenda is deception. Well, they have to deceive us in order to get us to do what they want.
Yeah. And maybe that's why they abduct. I know they abduct people at all hours, but it mostly happens at night. Maybe that's why it's when they're asleep because the person can't give consent.
Well, of course, they come during the hours of the night when we're off guard. Why don't they come do this in the middle of the daytime?
Mm.
They do it when it's best for them, not for us.
And how many? Just getting back to Dulce, how many humans would you say were being processed?
Uh,
Like, were there crowds and crowds of humans
I
just waiting?
I want to say for the length of time that we've been there and what I witnessed coming off of those crafts, bringing them in, I'm going to say maybe 25 to 30 humans total.
So not like an absolutely huge amount.
Yeah, but I was only there like very briefly.
Yeah, so this could have been
I mean, if this went on for hours,
24 hours most likely.
yeah, I mean, goodness, there could be hundreds, thousands.
And inside the base, did it look human constructed or did it look alien constructed?
It looked human constructed.
The light fixtures looked human.
Yes.
Your typical
Yes. Right.
bulbs.
Right.
What about doors?
I don't remember any doors like with a doorknob where you open your front door and walk outside. I saw uh, compartment doors like you would see in a warehouse, maybe that you slide apart, and they were
Yeah.
large.
Now you mentioned Kirkland Air Force Base. Is that beside Dulce?
That is where we went into the earth behind Kirkland.
Okay.
That
Do,
I'm sure of.
do you reckon there's some involvement there, or do you think that that base is there to keep an eye on what's going on there?
Well, I think that most of probably most all the major military bases in this country have been infiltrated by these aliens. And it started back when they tricked and deceived Eisenhower.
Yeah.
That's my see when I lived at Shreveport, uh, a number of people, and including myself, and I had passengers in the automobile with me. We were crossing the interstate bridge, going from Bossier City, from Shreveport over into Bossier City, which are adjoining cities. And Barksdale Air Force Base, which is enormous in size, is on the Bossier side of the river. And looking out over in the direction of the base, maybe like a half a mile up, could have, yeah, I'd say about a half a mile to a mile up, we saw the silhouette of this enormous looking blimp. And you could actually see through this blimp looking dirigible or whatever it was. You could see clouds on the other side of it because you're looking through it. And I almost wrecked my automobile looking at this thing. And I had all the passengers in the car looking at it as well. And of course, as soon as we crossed the river and got to an exit, I got off and went straight to a payphone, and I called Barksdale and asked them what this enormous blimp was that was right over the base, and that he had like little tiny helicopters or little tiny contraptions kind of zooming around it. And of course, the first thing Barksdale says, who are you and where are you calling from? They never answered my question. And so I came back to them and I said, well, I'm not sharing that with you. I'm just telling you what me and the passengers in my automobile, what we have just seen. And they said, well, we don't show anything on our radar that indicate anything what you're talking about. Could you please give me your name and your address and phone number, and we'll get back with you. Well, of course, I knew better than to do that. So, but when I lived there, the 10, 11, 12 years that I lived in Shreveport, a number of people had seen this very same thing. And in every case, Barksdale denied it. They knew nothing about it. Even one time it made the front page of the news for the newspaper, the Shreveport Times, because it had accidentally appeared over Shreveport, over a large shopping mall, and there were dozens of witnesses, and then it kind of blinked away. But all these people were testifying, and then I went back later for Barbara Barthwick. She wanted that newspaper article, and I called the newspaper, and they knew nothing about it. No record of it.
But the newspaper was published.
It was published, yes. So some people had a copy, but they weren't giving out anything to me, and they were denying that it existed. So
see, it's interesting because I could believe that like there's a cover up going on with the military, but a newspaper, we're talking about a lot of journalists here had to be typed up. I suppose this was, what year was this?
Oh heavens, maybe 1996 or 7.
Okay, so it was during the internet as well.
Yeah.
So there must be a record of it somewhere. Like you can't erase the front page of a newspaper that was printed, can you?
Well, I was not computer savvy enough to know how to search properly for this. All I did was call and ask where I could find and get a copy, and of course they denied knowing anything about it.
Okay. So you think
it was a verbal thing that I got? Somebody who really knows how to research something like that may find it.
Yeah. What was the name of the newspaper? Do you remember?
The Shreveport Times.
Shreveport Times. All right. I'll see if I can find it. Okay.
Okay.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah. Now, there are other. I mentioned in once before in a few episodes back about a lady that had been in another state, had been a secretary to the base commander at this facility, and she confided in me when we were doing a psychic reading. I had become friends with her, and I did readings for her periodically, and she had confided in me that the base commander had told her that their base had levels that housed aliens.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And so that's not the only time either. Uh, Barbara had had a number of encounters over the years with military people that were aware of this. So uh, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Gulf Breeze sightings at Gulf Breeze, Florida.
No, I haven't.
Okay, you might want to search that. There were a lot of sightings around Gulf Breeze area. A lot of pictures. A book was published about this, and it was very close to the Naval Air Station there, which is a huge operation.
Yeah.
And a
I
lot of people suspected that there was some type of connection.
you know, it brings up Phil Schneider again because he was talking about Dulce and he came out saying that, if something ever happens to me, if I commit suicide, I absolutely didn't. I was killed by them. And then like a year later, he committed suicide.
Yeah.
But he was talking about a firefight that happened at Dulce at this underground base that they came across, and a load of Marines died, and he lost a couple of fingers from it. I remember you saying before that Barbara had some information that she got about that where she confirmed that that happened. Is that correct?
Barbara didn't identify where her source. Uh, she couldn't do that,
Yeah,
but she did confide in me after my regressions involving Dulce. She did, and she did inform me that there were other people that had participated or were aware of that battle that took place there at Dulce, and that some of the people had been involved in it themselves that had come to her.
oh my god. And then we lost Barbara, didn't we?
Yes, so I need her. I tell you, she, she kept me from losing it
Yeah.
because I saw all these things, and it was almost emotionally unbearable to see what I'd seen, especially when it came to the children.
Yeah.
Uh, and I haven't been able, I'm being totally honest, I haven't been able to really talk about this with people until, Stuart, I got with you. I just couldn't talk about it. It was too hard. I would start trying to talk about it and I would just lose it and start crying.
Yeah. Oh no, it's completely horrific what's going on. And in a lot of ways, I kind of feel like Barbara was a bit like the gatekeeper here. And we just can't ask her anymore. Um, right, there's a comment on Reddit, Ted, all right, just to finish.
All right, I got it. All right, it says, I loved reading the Carla Turner books and about Ted's stories. I am having encounters with the reptilians. It's not fun. I awoke the other night alone to find 6 of them in my home. They have been trying to capture me for years now, but something keeps blocking them and protecting me. So they have started studying me to find out what it is. This has been very annoying because they have tapped into my mind on occasion, even call me a filthy, stupid human. Now that's typical. They say things like that to make us feel bad because they have no respect for us. They're only after their self-serving needs. Anyway, now I said that was Ted saying that, not this person. But continuing on, it says the other day when they arrived in my home, the leader reptilian radiated such powerful energy filled with malice and sadistic excitement. It was so scary. I jumped out of bed and turned to face him, and then I closed my eyes and sent a SOS telepathic message to my spirit guides. They intercepted me by shutting down my mind and rendering me unconscious in a matter of seconds, but I was acutely aware of how they did it. Well, if they shut down your mind and rendered you unconscious, I hate to tell you this, but I think you were had. The good angels are not going to do that to you. They're going to give you strength and keep you conscious so you can fight. Next thing he said, I remember feeling so drugged trying to walk back to my bed. I woke up the next morning thinking, oh no, did they finally get me? Okay, not going to elaborate too much on that, but my feeling is when you've had an experience like that and you come to or wake up and you have absolutely no energy and you just feel like you can't hardly get out of bed and this lasts all day or for hours, they had you and they've done something unpleasant to you. Now it goes on. However, the leader alien sent me a telepathic message saying, we believe you now. We know they are real. Obviously, it is referring to my spirit guides. My spirit guides also told me when I have we ever let you down, whenever have we let you down? When I question them about why they let it happen. Okay, well, first of all, your spirit guides, which are connected with your angels, they already know, so they don't have to tell you we believe you now, because they already know it's real. That's part of their job is to protect you. So, that's questionable right there, not from you, but for what they're letting you believe. They're trying to, in my opinion, lead you astray in your thinking. Says I saw UFOs in the sky a week after that. Soon after, I felt a sexual energy being sent my way and decided to go with it. I thought, hey, rather this psychopathic reptilian is attracted to me than just have that I won't hurt you and hear you scream while I torture you vibe, it radiated towards me. Well, the good angels, the good aliens are not going to come and get you sexually excited. They ain't gonna happen. Okay. All right. Big mistake. He says, I mean, I read about that they are very sexual race. Oh yeah, they thrive on sexual energy. That's a big thing with them. He says it feels surreal living with these two worlds, and now they finally collided in real life when the aliens got to meet my spirit guides in person. I think you have an illusion of what really was going on, my friend. No offense, but I do. Uh, Said I just woke up to a clicking electronic sound in my bedroom now. I searched everywhere for the source of it, couldn't find it. Oh no, it reminds me what Ted said now about scanning your environment. Well, the only time I've ever heard these clicking noises was when one of these floating orbs or balls, about the ones that I've experienced were about the size of a basketball, and they would come right through your walls like these aliens do, and they had a lot of little small lens on them, and they'll get right up within like a foot of your face, and they make little clicking noises. It reminded me somewhat of the old timey cameras from many years ago when you clicked it to take a picture and you could hear the shutter snapping. And it just those little clicking, dull clicking noises like that. So I would say, my friend, most likely that's what they were doing. And if you experience one of those, they always send those in before they come in themselves. So they have a layout of what everything is going on, where you are, is anybody with you, any animals there. that's the way they know when it's safe for them to come in.
Yeah. This comment is from Key Vinci on Reddit. There's a paragraph here that reads, "So naturally, I became very scared. I woke up this morning with my intuition telling me that I'm in danger. This alien radiates his intentions so it's easy to read, and yes, he can't stop thinking about me in a sexual way and is consumed with thoughts of abducting me. So I had to say a prayer to my spirit guides to help block his energy and ask for protection. That worked. I feel so relieved to have come to have some barrier between us. Wish I could get rid of this aliens. They have been following me for a decade now, asking questions about what's protecting me. The one time my spirit guide even responded and told me to tell them that they have a message for them, that no one is here by accident. No one." I thought the prayer was interesting.
Well, my experience, and Barbara also shared this with me, and Carla did also, that a lot of people claim that they got rid of the intrusions into their life by getting involved with their family church and doing a lot more prayer work to God and to Jesus, and getting more religion in their life. And that Barbara told me that one lady who had multiple abductions, some of them similar to what I had, she got heavily involved in church, and Barbara had been in touch with her like 15 years later, and she had not had a contact in many years.
Yeah. It seems that there's something in the power of prayer.
Yeah, I can't promise you anything, but hey, I do a lot of prayer work myself, and I don't have the negative intrusions that I had years ago.
Yeah. All right, Ted. That's all we have time for.
Okay.
Tell you what,
I enjoyed it.
If Kivansi is listening, sorry if I'm getting that name right or wrong, sorry. But if you want to email us, and if you have more of your story to tell us, we'd like to go through it, me and Ted. Now, Ted, have you got your farewell message?
Yeah, I want to remind everybody to recycle. Help Mother Earth recycle everything you can. When you don't have anything to do on a free day, go out somewhere and plant a tree to replace all the millions that are cut down every day. If you see an animal in distress where some cruel, mean person has put out a baby kitten or a puppy out on the highway somewhere, do your spiritual thing and get it and find a home for it. That's all I have to say today.
All right, till the next time, listeners.